Welcome to Voice Rising with Cara Johnstad. Enjoy weekly conversations with leading luminaries, pioneering visionaries, singers, poets, musicians, and sound healers as we explore the profound role our voice plays on the path to self-realization and global enlightenment. The internationally acclaimed singer, composer, author, healer, recording artist, voice expert, creator of Voice Your Essence, and founder of the School of Voice, Cara Johnstad uses her extraordinary spiritual gifts to empower others. Everything in this world vibrates. Everything has a frequency. A pioneer in the field of voice work and transformational songwriting. Her breakthrough methods are helping thousands of people worldwide fine-tune their body-mind-spirit system and unlock the energetic frequencies of limitless creativity, health, and abundance. Share your voice, ask your questions, join in the conversation. Receive life-changing, positive transformation and rise together to create a sound world. And here's your host, Cara Johnstad.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Voice Rising. With me in the studio are Dean and Dudley Evenson, founders of Soundlings of the Planet, a new age record label that spans decades of intentional, peaceful music. And today we are here to talk all about their newest album, Monet's Garden, and their vision for our world. Welcome, Dean and Dudley, to Voice Rising.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Cara.
Yeah. So let's start first. Generally, you are creating wonderful music. Your piece through music recordings and videos, they've raised awareness about social and environmental issues, and they've brought deep relaxation and inspiration to millions of people worldwide. So this is a question, when was a turning point for you as artists and musicians where you knew you wanted to commit yourselves to peace through music?
It came about us getting in touch with Native American energy, mm-hmm. and feeling the depth of their philosophy that connected them to the earth as a living being. And we wanted to bring that message into the places where decisions were being made on an environmental level. Mm-hmm. And so we felt the way to do that would be to record music and have natural sounds interacting with the music and creating an environment that allowed people to relax and get in touch with their inner self.
Well, and we also are coming at the time out of the peace movement of the 60s, mm-hmm. where we were really addressing, the wars and that sort of thing, and also social justice issues. And so, we knew what we were against in the 60s, but the 70s brought us to the realization that we needed to discover what kind of world we wanted to create. And so we spent all of the 70s traveling in our half-size school bus around the country and videotaping, because we'd gotten into video early on. That was a whole another trajectory. And we were learning what it was to live a healthy, happy, holy life. And we'd gotten into yoga and meditation. We were also influenced by the music, the more meditative music of the East, and so it was kind of bringing together all of those elements and weaving them into our releases. And we actually had recorded a lecture by Ram Dass in Tucson, Arizona in '79, and we'd been doing video since, like I say, we bought our first camera in 1970, so we were really pioneers in that field. But then we had no way to distribute all this amazing material that we were collecting. And so we did the Ram Dass lecture, and he invited us to, sell the cassette tapes, and we got 50 orders, and we thought, oh, there's cassette players at home. So there was a distribution thing there, and Dean had been playing flute since he was 10 years old, so he can share more about his own musical background, but it just made sense for us to include the Ram Dass lecture and our own peaceful music of flute and harp that we were playing, and then several other albums, and that's when we started our record label, Soundings of the Planet. And peace through music was always our motto. It was always about inner peace and also world peace, because it's kind of what we do as individuals is so important, and then it expands to our families and to our communities. So we can't just say, I want world peace. It's got to come from within. So that's what the feedback we got from the music early on. People seem to really find it helpful and centering, and used it for meditation and getting their massage and that sort of thing.
You just released a new album called Monet's Garden, which is inspired by a lifelong love affair with the French impressionistic painter Claude Monet, actually Oscar Claude Monet. What are the parallels, or what are the similarities? What brought you to Monet's work?
Well, for me, it was a shining example of being strong in oneself, to that one can find a new path for oneself. Mm-hmm. Monet was with a group of artists called the Impressionists, and they bucked the art system, the classical art system, by painting paintings that didn't fit their parameters. And so they had to develop their own market and their own way of displaying the art so people could see it. And for me, that was important because I was coming out of a very conservative upbringing, evangelical histories and community, and I didn't know anything about movies or dancing or that kind of stuff. And so I was breaking through, learning about going the extra mile with reading about new culture, and part of opening up was seeing what the Impressionists had done, and so I was encouraged to think in terms of music differently also. Even though I had 10 years of classical training, I started to explore. And interestingly enough, there was in the church that I went, we had a evening service, and there was a orchestra where anyone could go play in the orchestra. And so I went and I just jammed and found myself exploring a lot of new pathways.
Nice.
Well, it's kind of what we also did with our music when we first presented it. People said they'd never heard anything like it, and we realized it had somewhat classical background in terms of structure and some form, but perhaps it had a connection with jazz because of the improvisational aspects. But it really wasn't like anything. It certainly wasn't like either of those genres, and there really was no kind of music that had such an intention of creating inner peace and healing and relaxation. So people said, you're just going to have to create your own genre. And so we just kept pushing it, and eventually met other artists who were exploring in the same way. And, it continued, and pretty soon there were bins in record stores when there were records. It just started to expand. And of course now it's very well accepted, and there's a New Age Grammy, and, but it was just, kind of breaking breaking the mold there and realizing that there's a really completely new, different kind of genre here, and it really has so much to do with, I believe, the intention of the musicians and what the purpose of the music is. It's not just slow music with bird sounds, but it really has a, meaningful thing. So that was just one of the several parallels that we noticed with our lives and Monet and Claude Monet, just in terms of breaking the mold and pushing, having the courage to kind of step out of the
he had
box.
a lot of courage. I think when he was young. Also, there are stories where he, was faced with going to war, and actually his father was going to buy him out of going to war only if he dropped his artistry. And that is quite a big decision if you're not conforming to the art of the day and you are being faced with war. And as far as I know, Monet said, I am an artist and this is how I see the world. And I don't feel like copying all the masters. I need to do what I feel. And that is, that's powerful, speaking truth to power. To create your newest album, Monet's Garden, you traveled to France in 2019 to study his work, to go to the Paris museums and spend time at his lush, colorful, and beautiful gardens in Giverny, where he did so much of his painting. And I would say that this album must be accompanied by divine timing, because everybody here in Europe knows that the lockdown in France happened March 17th, 2020. So spring of 2020, everything is locking down in Europe. Travel bans, closed museums, closed restaurants, closed hotels. Travel was not easy. And you were there in 2019, right before everything's locking down, going to these gardens, which is really magical to think about it. Do you ever think about that in hindsight, that it was, that you were somehow guided? Because now it's much more difficult.
Exactly, and we think 2019 was an amazing year for us. It was also the year we celebrated the 40th anniversary of Soundings of the Planet. We had a big gathering here in Bellingham with all our musicians, many of whom, we've been working with for 40 years. And so we had that. There were just so many incredible events that happened during that time period. And then to have been able to go, to realize this dream. Dean had never been to Europe. I traveled a lot in my youth, but we've been to Russia, we've been to Tibet, we've been all sorts of places, but he hadn't really been to Paris. And so it was just, we said, this is it, we're going to go. And so we were really lucky that we got to attend, go to Paris. And it was just like it was a journey, because, we'd start with Musée d'Orsay, and then we, get to the l'Orangerie and the Louvre. There's a little bit in the Louvre, and then later we went to Musée Monet, which is, so we were really tracking his paintings in Paris. And then when we got to Giverny, it was, we got to live in that little village for almost a week, and every day we're over there in the gardens, and Dean's got his camera, and I'm taking pictures, and Dean's doing field recordings. So it was just a magical time to be able to be there, and then also that we documented it so completely, and we're able to share it. You can listen to the whole album and see these beautiful gardens on our YouTube channel, the Soundings of the Planet YouTube channel. There's a full hour of springtime in Monet's Garden, I think it's called.
He's famous for his water lily paintings, among others, but I think he painted over 250 water lily paintings. And I would love to play that opening track from your album, The Water Lily Nymph. Would you like to say a few words before, or should we talk about that after we listen to the music?
Well, just know that obviously the water lilies, in fact, in French, I believe, nymphea is water, it means the water lily, so we just kind of added that title. We like the nymph idea. But it was just so magical to be in, walking around the pond and be in the different locations with so many different beautiful perennials and flowering bushes and trees and the willows. And actually, our gardens at home are very, very similar. So that was another parallel that we realized. We had no idea that I guess we're in a similar climate, but where we live, the woman who lived here before us planted probably 15 different kind of flowering rhododendrons, so they bloom at different times, the azaleas, the willows, all the different plants. So it was just fun to be there in May and document it. And so just to be able to share it with the world through these videos and through the music is pretty exciting. So yeah, just close your eyes and imagine you're looking at those beautiful water lilies.
Exactly. Close your eyes as long as you're not driving anywhere in a safe place, of course. Close your eyes. And we're going to listen to the opening track of Monet's Garden. And the track is called Water Lily Nymph.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at OMTimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
With happy clients all over the world, Cara Johnstad knows that your voice is the missing link to more authenticity, abundance, creativity, and health. An internationally acclaimed voice expert, Cara's breakthrough methods have helped thousands of people successfully heal their voice wounds and extinguish the story of self-doubt and shyness forever. Join in group trainings, attend online sessions, schedule one-on-one time, and invite Cara to work with your organization and community. Get started today. Go to www.carajohnstad.com and receive a special guided meditation designed to fine-tune your inner voice and welcome you on the voice journey.
This is Kathy Beal, host of Celestial Compass, featuring astrology you can use. Celestial Compass points you to what's going on in the sky and what you can do with it down here on Earth. We also explore fun, effective, and cosmic tools for navigating this adventure we call life. Join me the first and third Monday of the month at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Celestial Compass. It's enlightening, entertaining, and empowering.
Coping-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
Welcome back to Voice Rising. I am your host, Cara Johnstad, and with me in the studio are Dean and Dudley Evenson, whose most recent album, Monet's Garden, was released in May this year and was created after a lifelong love affair with the work of the famed French impressionistic painter Claude Monet. So here is the question. The richness we receive from nature has been the source of many artists' inspiration. To tend to a garden is to feed not just the body, but also the soul. Drawing from your many years of experience, how are painting and composing and gardening linked?
Well, they're all on the same planet.
That's a good one.
We're all breathing together.
Oh, nice.
And gardening is dealing with life and having a personal relationship with a living being, a living garden, a living situation. Mm-hmm. And music is that way too. It's a living situation. You're playing music, but you're alive in your connection with the other artists you're playing with. Mm-hmm. What was the other one?
Art and music and painting.
Composing, and gardening.
Yeah, sorry.
What about painting?
Painting. Right. Painting is that's a similar situation where you're interacting, especially the way Monet did it, interacting with nature. Nature is the source of the inspiration for their work, for his work. And he approached it very uniquely, too. He would set up paintings that were for certain times of the day. Mm-hmm. For instance, haystacks. He did a series of paintings of just depicting the haystacks that were around. And he would have one painting that would be, say, at 12 o'clock, and the light from the sun would be a certain quality at that time. And then as the day goes on, the colors shift very subtly, but they shift. And as you move into sunset, you really begin to see the difference of the colors. And that is nature bringing out the essence of what is happening.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, too, because Dean does a lot of video around our own gardens and actually anywhere we are in nature. And so he's always trying to capture. We have a river, beautiful wild river that flows past our land, and he's videoed it in so many different ways, but each time it's different. And the same with the gardens, and the same with music. You know, you're playing the same 12 notes, but what combination you make of them, and the mood and the reflection of the people you're playing with, or what type of experience you're trying to create. I think they're all so interrelated, and it all has to do with, you know, just that sensitivity of whether it's, as Dean said, relating directly to nature, or, you know, to the other musicians that you're working with. You mentioned the water lily paintings, how many he's painted of the water lilies. And again, you know, you've seen one water lily, you've seen them all, but really no, you see them all as uniquely different experiences. And I think that's what's so amazing about music and art in general, is that it's just right there, always changing, always evolving, and you're catching and in a moment, whatever you record or whatever you put on your canvas, or whatever, you know, whatever plants you plant in the garden. So it's just a magical situation, art, music, and gardens. And I just love those three ideas and concepts together, because they really, if the more we can have art, music, and gardens in our lives, I think the world's going to be a better and a happier place.
I think
bringing the children to that equation, and then we'll have happy kids
of course.
too.
Yeah, and I think some people are not even aware that as musicians we do say that melodies have roots, right? We do have a key, a root where things are planted. We're not, you know, we have roots that we come back to home, and we do tend to, you know, at least for me as a composer, you know, melodies also need to be nurtured. They need to be tended to. And I learned something while researching for this interview with you, is that water lilies, I mean, it's true, but they breathe. So they close in the nighttime, just like we curl up in bed and kind of go into a sleep modus. They also close. I thought that was just such a beautiful image, how a lily in the evening would be, you know, closing just like we kind of pull inwards. It was something I'd never thought about before.
Actually, yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah,
many plants do that, but the water lilies.
Many plants do that. Yeah.
Well, I think you bring up the interesting point about water lilies, and that's something that we think of the lotus, and you know, the lotus in you know, many Eastern religions is such a symbol of that divine. Om Mane Padme Hum is open to the divine, you know, the principles, the perfection, and then it's manifesting in the lotus. And what I love about the lotus as an image is that it's growing in the mud, and so it's like we humans are planted in the mud, in the dirt, you know, and we maybe think mud is yucky, but it isn't. It's the life force coming through the planet, through the mud, and then it bursts forth on top of the water, and it's this beautiful, glorious pink or white or, you know, whatever color it is. And so, you know, you think of the lotus as this glorious thing, but really it's rooted in mud. And I think if we can all realize that our whole root system is in the earth, and if we can respect that and do whatever we can to keep the planet healthy and thriving, because it's our source. And if we don't take
amazing,
care of it,
and the amazing transformation, right? To have this tiny little seed, and have it break forth and be still in the dirt or in the muddy water wherever the seed is planted. Sometimes we're all shooting so fast we want to get to those blossoms really, really fast, and we forget that our roots are there in the muck, and we have to stay where we are until we can anchor and center and maybe align. Monet, he did his water lilies more horizontally, most of them, and the willows, he was in those vertical canvases. When you're composing, are the different harmonics that appear, if you think of images like cascading willows, do you think of different harmonics opening more vertically or more horizontal, or is it something that comes to you?
It comes, and I don't think of it. I don't. It's not a part of my composing process.
Yeah.
It's about our relationship. I think that, with the way we make our music is very much of the relationship. It's not, Dean isn't sitting down writing notes on a page. None of our music has been written down. It's been created composed as it's being created. Like a conduit. It's the relationship between the musicians. And that's what I remember being excited about when he and Jonathan Kramer, our cellist, first were recording on Desert Dawn Song, our very first album. Just listening to them in the back and forth, they had a common language. They may or may not even have agreed in a key, because the key could even change, but they were paying attention to each other. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the kind of music that we make, because it isn't written down. It's created as it's being played by people who really speak a common language and also communicate well with each other. I think that's probably...
Yeah. Beautiful. Let's listen to Cascading Willows, and then we can talk more about it after we hear it.
Great.
Listening to Cascading Willows off of Monet's Garden. Monet began the Weeping Willow series, as far as I know, when the First World War, during that First World War, and it reached this final year. His son and stepson were on the front, and as far as I know about history, Germany had come into France and was 37 kilometers away from Giverny, these beautiful gardens where he was painting, and he had to make that difficult choice whether he stays or whether he leaves the country. Was there ever a moment in your lives as artists where, due to a political environment or due to hardships, where you also had to think about, at least, do I drop the music, or do I leave the country, or do I persevere on this artist path?
Well, one of the major decisions that a male made in the 60s was whether to get drafted or not, and to go to war in Vietnam. And I was adamant about not going. I was going to move to Canada, whatever it took. And so there was a similarity. And
fortunately, he figured out a way not to be drafted, so it worked out.
Very
I
good.
just met him then.
Very good.
But yeah, no, I love the fact that Monet stayed and painted during World War I, and how important that was for him. It was his own form of art therapy, and he really did those huge water lily paintings that are in l'Orangerie in Paris, and it was just something that he just kept going with and did not let the war interfere with his painting. It was a healing experience, just the way music can be a musical therapy, or music can help the soul and lift the spirit. I think Monet really chose to use his artwork and to continue it and not give up or not flee. That it kept him going, and fortunately for the world, he made the most beautiful les décorations, the large horizontal paintings that
fill a whole room.
Yeah, a couple big rooms in l'Orangerie, which is pretty.
It's like we're immersed in that garden when we stand there. I've been to that museum. It's really amazing, and we stand there and we can feel. Well, I think that is a thing too. I would say between gardening and music and composing and painting, the intent. When an artist, whether they're creating music or whether they're creating paintings, you feel the peace, you feel the love, and it lasts over hundreds of years. I mean, the music, whether we're listening to music that was recorded 100 years ago, or whether we're listening to, or not listening, I guess I was going to say listening to a painting, which is also very good. But there is that the artist carries that frequency in the work that they create. Right?
Well, he was fortunate that he became known in his own and successful in his own life.
Yeah.
What's ironic is after his death, the l'Orangerie finally was set up as a proper museum to display these huge paintings. But for some reason, I guess it was because of abstract expressionism and Picasso and Cubism and all sorts of other types of painting became popular. And after his death, it almost like he fell off the map. And it was another decades before people began to be interested in his work again. And it was really what we learned was in the late 40s when the GIs were coming back from when they'd gotten their could go to college, and a lot of them wanted to go back to France because they'd had an experience there. And they wanted to see Monet's paintings, and so the gardens that he had kept so beautifully in his lifetime, and then his daughter-in-law, the daughter of his second wife who had married his son, she ended up being taking care of the property for many years, and then when she passed on, his remaining son wasn't that interested in it at all, and so it just fell into disarray, and weeds grew up, and so it was really kind of sad on two levels. One, his paintings became less popular, and then the gardens just fell into disarray. However, when these American GIs came back wanting to go to France and look for Monet, all of a sudden they're like, okay, now we got to get it figured out. And I love that the Academy of Beaux-Arts took over the gardens and really renovated them and made them. I think it wasn't until, it was a number of years before they got to be perfectly the way they are today, which is very much a replica replication of what he had planted and
What he had
tried to
done.
keep the color schemes and everything. And now so many people can enjoy it. But it was just kind of ironic that things had shifted, and fortunately he got to enjoy the popularity during his own life. And Dean and I are kind of in an interesting situation too, because after 40 years of creating this music, believe me, we've gone through ups and downs, and there have been struggles, and we've been in extreme debt in the past, and it was just, when the music business shifted, and then people want to just give up or declare bankruptcy, and we didn't, thankfully, because now, of course, with the streaming services, our music is listened to by millions and millions and millions. In fact, Dean just passed I think a billion. I think we're at 1.2 billion now on Pandora alone, and that doesn't count all the other, different services, Spotify and Apple and Amazon. But just to have been able to stick it out and not give up, I think that was the other thing that we liked learning about Monet, because there's a lot of times you just want to give up, and any artist or any creative person is going to go through something like that, the dark night of the soul, I guess. But to be able to say, no, this is my art, this is important, and I'm not going to give up. So stay the course, don't give up.
Yeah, stay the course, don't give up, like the mighty oak tree, right? They also stay through all the storms. Okay, we're going to take a small break, and then we're going to be back in a few moments.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The United States has the highest rate of incarceration in the world. At the Equal Justice Initiative, we believe mass incarceration has to end. There is this presumption of dangerousness and guilt that gets assigned to Black and brown people. We have to confront our history of racial injustice and commit to a new era of truth. There's something better waiting for us, something that feels more like freedom. Truth can inspire change. Please learn more at eji.org.
Welcome back to Voice Rising. I am your host, Cara Johnstad, and with me in the studio are Dean and Dudley Evenson, whose most recent album, Monet's Garden, was released in May this year and was created after a lifelong love affair with the work of the famed French impressionist painter, Claude Monet. So the question is, for the two of you, you have been doing this for a long time. You've been sharing these beautiful spaces with people. We talked about the healing power of music before the break. What is the importance of creating a personal sanctuary, a place where we can take refuge from those harsh winds? What does that look like for you?
It's real important for us to get quiet at some point during the day and just listen to the universe instead of speaking to the universe.
Yeah.
And allowing oneself to be just enthralled with being alive. It's such a privilege to be here with these bodies we've got. And this, how did it happen? How did we get here? the important thing is that we're here and we can share this joy that we feel about being here with others.
And I love the idea of a sanctuary. Everyone needs a place, whether it's physical or spiritual. I think one of the blessings of that the music creates is it does allow for this a spiritual kind of experience that's internalized, because we are bombarded with so much negative news. There's all sorts of things to worry about, whether they're personal or global. And so if you can be outside in nature, that's wonderful. If you can, go for a walk with your headphones on and listen, or you can sit quietly in your room, whatever works for you. I think everyone has to be creative, because everyone maybe can't get out and away from the cities, but I believe even in cities there are beautiful natural areas that you can enjoy in parks and that kind of thing, or just your own, sitting by a window with a flower or something like that. Yeah. So creating your own personal sanctuary is so important, and thankfully the music is a tool that one can use to kind of move away from all the noise of the world and learn to quiet their minds.
And it really shifts the space quickly. I think that's an amazing gift from music, is if you, for example, when we listen to Monet's Garden, we come right into that place immediately without going through security checks or without, worrying about documents. And we can just be embraced by this music. And it's not only on the outside. Music penetrates us, right, to all of our cells. They start dancing. I want to play the third track off of Monet's Garden, called Golden Tones. Is there any quick backstory to Golden Tones?
Well, just that we really included the Tibetan singing bowls on this track, and I play the troubadour harp. On the other tracks, many of them I play a sort of a hand harp, more like a zither, and then of course Dean's playing the silver flute and also the cedar flute on. Oh no, he doesn't play cedar flute on this. He plays it on some other tracks. But yeah, so the Golden Tones is singing bowls and silver flute and harp, and then of course you're going to hear the actual bird song that Dean recorded in the gardens. So you'll hear some French birds. See if they parlay.
French birds. Lovely.
I didn't understand what they were singing about. It was in French, so.
Beautiful. to Golden Tones off of Monet's Garden. Dean and Dudley Evenson are with me here in studio. And I did remember a Monet quote about birds. I would like to paint the way a bird sings. And I think that's so beautiful. Also, the thought that the birds sing in the darkness. It's kind of what our world needs now, if you ask me, is to remember that even though there are some storms brewing around us, but still the birds and nature continues to blossom, continues to evolve, right? It always blows me away, the beauty that is there for us.
Absolutely. So true.
Yeah, there's so much that nature has to share with us.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. And nature is itself so complex and beautiful.
Yeah, you two have been sharing your wisdom for many, many years. You've been on this path as musicians and artists, and have your label for decades, and have been producing music really focused on wellness and our well-being, on creating a sound world. And your message is very clear that Mother Earth is this luscious garden that we need to tend to. So what are some of the ways that we could, what are some easy steps that we could do to tend to the earth and make this world a healthier place?
Well, for one thing, we can plant trees. I think planting trees everywhere is so important. And tend to your local gardens, and there's a lot of if you don't have your own land, community gardens are available. Being out in nature, just being aware of threats to the natural world around you. I think when people can look at their local world and see what's happening, and make sure that the water is clean and nothing is polluting it, and just so many different things. Did you have something you were going to say, Dean?
Oh, I think that there's a joy that comes from just connecting with nature. And nature transfers into our systems a joyous level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is inherent in our beings that we want to succeed on a natural level. We're driven by the very source of all the energy that we can make a difference and bring that concept of growing ourselves and growing our gardens and just feel the love that happens when you do that.
I love that word, joy-centric. It seems to me that is a key to shift harm to harmony, that if we remember that we are joyful beings that are connected to each other. Thank you so much for being on the show. What is the homepage where people can check out your music and all your offerings? You mentioned all the streaming sites. Of course, people can stream you and get your albums.
Well, we have a really, our website, soundings.com. And then if you want to check out our videos, I think it's another way to really experience the music. But on YouTube, if you type in Soundings of the Planet, is our main music channel, and you'll be able to see Monet's Garden and all the glorious videos we've made. And then on our other channel is kind of fun. It's called Soundings Mindful Media, and that's a lot of our archival videos from 1970 on.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Dean and Dudley, for being with me today.
Thank you, Cara.
At Voice Rise.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. I wish you much success, and I love your music.
Thank you so much, Cara. Good luck to you, too.
All right, bye-bye.
We'll be listening to you as well. You take care.
You too.
Thank you.
Have a smile.